A couple days before Christmas, I had found myself in the emergency room. You see, for the previous 6 weeks, I had been experiencing headaches, and they weren't like super bad, but they were consistent. And of course, this was alarming to me because I'm not a girl who normally gets headaches. So I get a telemed doctor on the phone, and I just kind of go over my symptoms and what's been going on. And then I let him know my sister had recently passed from cancer, and that included having 5 brain tumors. So of course I'm naturally like, this is where my brain is going, is that, this is cancer, and I probably have tumors in my brain too. Given my symptoms combined with the history with my sister, he said, you need to get into the emergency room and get a CT scan and an MRI. And I'd like you to do that today, if possible. So after I pick up the kids from school, I drive myself to the emergency room. So they give me a CAT scan. And of course, everything just takes forever when you're in the emergency room. And so by that time, my husband was off work and he had brought me a hamburger because I was hungry. And so they finally get the results of the CAT scan. And they tell me that I have a, quote, tiny brain bleed. They have to, of course, admit me at that point. They have to get an MRI to get a better view of what's going on. And just a note for anybody who has to get an MRI in the future, if they ask you what kind of music you want to listen to, do not choose your favorite music, because you have no idea how hard it is not to move your body to the favorite beat until you can't. So I'm not sleeping at all. I'm getting woken up every hour. I finally fall asleep around 3:30. But at 5:30, I'm woken up from the neurologist, and he tells me this is not a bleed. Your brain is completely normal and healthy. What it is actually a hypercalcification, and it's considered normal for somebody of my age. So I'm trying to explain to my 10-year-old twins what this hypercalcification is. And as I'm explaining, Madison asks, so you're telling me that you have a crystal in your brain? And my husband says to me, it kind of makes me feel better telling myself that your weird idiosyncrasies are actually the result of this crystal that you have in your brain. And what are these idiosyncrasies, these nuances that he's referring to? Well, let me give you a couple of them. The first thing is I hate feet touching me, like at all. I don't have a problem with feet. I just don't want them touching me. Another one is that if I'm sitting down on a computer typing, because I work from home, if someone comes and stands next to me and hovers, I just can't stand it. I'm like, go sit down. Don't hover there. Another one is that I'm hypersensitive to repetitive sounds. The very last one is that I have a very small window that I am comfortable with temperature-wise. I get cold very easily. This discovery of this hypercalcification, or this crystal, has now allowed Michael to create a new story about what these nuances mean, or at least allow him to not get as irritated by them. What Michael was doing inadvertently is reframing. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Why framing is the secret no-fail strategy for relationship happiness. So what is reframing? Reframing is where you take something that you're currently viewing in a negative light and make it into something positive, or at least into something that's a little less negative. Reframing is actually my second favorite strategy that I've personally used in my marriage. So you may wonder, well, if it's my second favorite, what's my first favorite? Well, my first favorite strategy is to just simply choose to overlook what I consider to be flaws in my husband. So what, simply be like an ostrich and bury your head in the sand? Yep, exactly. Because if I'm not looking at something, does it even exist? It's kind of like when you're playing a video game and your character, the map in the screen, if you turn your head, that scenario then translates as you're looking at it. It's not there until you actually turn your head and look at it. And that's kind of the mindset that I use in my marriage, is to simply ignore those things, and so I don't see them. But what happens if you can't ignore something? Well, then that's when you go to the reframing. Just like to stop to take a moment to ask you to hit that like button, that subscribe button, and so YouTube can do its algorithm thing. Also, I wanted to let you know about a new community that I have created, and I've created this community to help you understand women better so that you can have better relationships. I'd love for you to be a part of that. I'll go ahead and link that in the description. So let's continue on. So reframing is the strategy, but what is the actual technique? How is it actually implemented? There's 3 ways that I would recommend you do this. The first one is that you're going to give your wife the benefit of the doubt. We always assume the worst, that they did this on purpose. They're meaning to hurt me. They knew what they were saying. They were intentionally trying to piss me off. But that's really actually not true. Think about the last time that you intentionally were trying to piss somebody off. Anytime there's a problem, it's usually because of something that was misunderstood. So I'd like you to try to assume the best of your wife, because how you process something that happens is all a story that you create anyway. So isn't it just as easy to create a story about what something means or why somebody did something that's a good story versus one that's going to be harmful and piss you off? It's just as easy. The results are going to be much better, though, assuming the best of the person. The next thing I'd like you to do is have gratitude. Now, I don't know how much laundry you have going on in your house, but for my house, there just seems to be like an ungodly amount of laundry, like all the time. And it's my personal theory that God let women live longer to give us back the time that we lost to laundry and dishes. My personal theory, I think that's why he did that. So how can we take the situation of something that's like annoying and irritating that we constantly have to do laundry and dishes and it never ends? Well, we can reframe it to where we're grateful that we have clothes to wear. We're grateful that we have children that dirty up the clothes. We're grateful that we have technology. We don't have to go down to the river and hand wash them. It's so much easier than it ever used to be. And as women act like it's like this super big deal. So yes, we have to do the same thing with dishes. Oh, dishes mean we have food to eat. Dishes mean that we have people who we're eating with in a family. So having dishes there is an absolute blessing that we often overlook because we don't like that last final step of having to clean it. And the last technique I like to use is humor where you can. And when I'm doing the laundry, I like to sing the theme song to the Never Ending Story because that's exactly how I feel about it. So assume the best of the other person. Have gratitude for your situation. If you can find humor in it, it's going to make it easier for you. So reframing is one of the greatest life hacks you can use to immediately transform 99% of your relationship problems. It's not just a strategy that you can apply only to romantic situations, but like really in anything in your life. Now, some people might say that this is all delusional, but we delude ourselves all the time anyway with these stories that we make up. Creating a story about why a person said something or didn't do this or did do this. They're just stories we've created. Why not choose to create a story that is actually going to create a benefit in your life and peace and less conflict? What do you think? Have you used this technique before? Let me know in the comments. And if you've gotten this far, you might as well go ahead and hit that like and that subscribe button. And make sure that you go ahead and click through on that next video that I have selected for you. And with that, I'll see you next time.